and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I sometimes look at Keanu Reeves and think, whoa.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss River's Edge, which came out in 1986, directed by Tim Hunter. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a group of high school friends. One of them, John, has just killed another friend, Jamie, and has left her body next to the river. The rest of the group have to come to terms with his actions and decide what to do.
This is one of those films that where the script and the director tried to get funding throughout the Hollywood studio system, and every single studio just looked at the script and said, "We're not financing that. We're not making this in the era of John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
We are not touching something like this."
Oh, yeah.
And so it kind of got relegated for quite a while, and then Tim Hunter started to ship it around some sort of independent studios to try and get financing, and he had to come to terms with the fact that he was going to have to make this film for less than $1 million. Eventually, the actual final budget was somewhere around 1.7 million.
Yeah.
And whilst they were filming, they kind of managed to raise some more money, which was needed in order to get the film finished. And when this film came out, it did okay financially. It earned its money back.
Right.
But the critical response to this film was very, very split. Audiences rejected the disaffected teens illustrated in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see why, because right at the beginning of the film, the teens find the body. You know, it's a, hey, stand by me. Do you want to go and see a dead body?
Yeah. There's something, I'd never heard of this film until we had to sit down to watch it. And then obviously wikied it, looked into the research, and was surprised of some of the names we saw in there. I mean, we have Crispin Glover playing Lane. Crispin Glover I'll always remember as George McFly.
Right, yeah.
He's Marty's dad. And his character in this was like an updated version of George McFly.
It's like they just cranked it up a little bit more.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell if he was acting against the director's wishes and just acting out, or this is actually how he acts.
You crazy motherfucker, John. Do you see this?
It was something that the director wanted. They got Crispin to do kind of 2 takes in his audition.
Yeah.
And the director wasn't quite sure, but in the end decided to go with Crispin's original performance, which is what you'll see in the film.
Yeah.
It was something the director wanted. So it was an actual creative choice to have him act this way.
Okay. I'm sorry, Clarissa. But you've got to understand that in a time like this where every fucking second counts, a man can't waste his time choosing words.
We've also got Joshua John Miller playing Tim. I've only ever seen this actor in another film, Near Dark. He plays Homer, the vampire, and he was amazing in that. In this, there's something about his character. There's this whole background. Him and his brother Matt, played by a very young Keanu Reeves, are living with their mum and her step-boyfriend. They've got a little sister, Madeline, as well. And the whole family is just... there's no structure. Absolutely none. Mum has no control over any of the children. She kind of just leaves the little girl on her own, at least, to go to work. But this isn't the focus point. This is the thing, because the film just starts off with Tim stood next to the river with holding a doll, and symbolizes him throwing it into the river. And then he looks up and he sees John, or Samson, played by Daniel Roebuck, sat next to the river with the dead body of Jamie.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I'm sat there and I'm like, okay, dark. Like, not even like, oh, it's got an undertone of darkness. It's like, there you go. Darkness, right in the face.
Right? And John doesn't seem to have any remorse.
Nope.
He doesn't seem to care at all.
Nope.
It's just so matter-of-fact about it. He goes into school, like, moments later, and they're just like, hey, where's so-and-so? And he's like, oh, I killed her.
Where's Jamie?
I killed her.
She's gonna be in big trouble if she keeps stitching like this.
What?
I killed her.
And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, you're so funny, John. Yeah, whatever." And he's like, "No, I killed her." It's like, "Why?" "Oh, she was talking shit about my mum." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, no one talks shit about your mum. Yeah, sorry, yeah." Like, totally
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah, you totally, justified in killing her. She said shit about your mum.
But this is it, we follow John around. He goes to school. He sees his friends. They head out to where the body is, and this is where, I'm not fully understanding what I'm supposed to be feeling from this movie at this point, because nobody just seems to care that she's dead. The town in which they live in, the police don't seem to be alerted at any point until later on in the film when it's gone its natural course. But at this point, it's just like, here's a dead body. John takes out Lane and Matt with him, and Lane is just so obsessed with covering this up.
Yeah, he wants to protect his friend.
Yeah, like this whole group of friends that they've got, Matt, Mike, Clarissa, Maggie, the film doesn't tell you any of their history. It's like, here's a group of actors, we've all given them names, this is their background characters, which they all deliver really, really well. But now they've got this dead body to contend with, and they just start to fracture.
Only slightly.
Only slightly, yeah.
It's the fact that they have non-reactions. They're just like, "Oh, she's dead. Oh, well. What do you want to do? Let's just go." And Lane's then just like, "No, we need to hide the body. We need to bury it." And no one's interested.
It's when they go there and they've taken the girls with them, Clarissa and Maggie, and they've taken this guy Mike. They have this whole situation with Mike at the burger joint, don't they?
Yeah.
Lane is just really insistent to let him borrow this truck, and Mike's like, "No, I'm working, I can't." And then the next scene, he's in the truck with them driving, and I'm like, that's not normal. It doesn't feel normal. It feels like the film is just forcing now this Mike character onto us, so that after they've revealed the body to everybody and they're all trying to argue what they should do.
Mike is the only one who reacts like you imagine the audience watching this film would react.
Yeah, him and Lane actually fight. They actually fight out in the mud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's wait, now we're all going to go to the police? No.
We're just going to go to school and carry on as normal.
So, me and John are gonna have to do this all by ourselves, huh? What the fuck are you doing?
She's heavy.
We've got Dennis Hopper playing Feck, the drug dealer. And, we're first initially introduced to him by John and Tim driving over there to get drugs.
Yeah.
And then later on by Matt and Lane driving over there to buy drugs. And what were they feeding Dennis Hopper just to do this part?
Oh, my friend.
I don't know, it looks like lots of drugs. Dennis Hopper is a fantastic actor, and
Yeah.
he kind of helps ground this film a little bit with his presence, even though it's very wacky.
Yeah.
And they reference Easy Rider a couple of times.
His bike is in the front room, I was
Right.
going to say. And I'm like, it's the dude from Easy Rider.
Yeah, you could kind of imagine it's an extended universe, but not really.
Yeah.
But he's had a tragic motorcycle accident. He's lost his leg. He explains that the ambulance crew, when they turned up, drove over his leg and destroyed it.
Yeah.
Just like, okay. And now he's living this reclusive life with a blow-up doll. And he explains that he killed someone several years ago and he's hiding away from law enforcement, which is why he's now this bizarre, strange recluse dealing drugs to kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I killed a girl once. It was no accident. Put the gun right to the back of her head, blew her brains right out the front. I was in love.
I strangled mine.
This is what, in a way, makes this film really, really good, because just like all the other actors, Dennis Hopper is portraying this character that has all this history going on brilliantly, but it actually has nothing to do with the actual story itself. Like the film is very, very multi-layered.
It
It's
has
very
parallels.
symbolic. It's very
Yeah.
parallel. But in turn, like I said, Feck actually, the fact that he has this history where he killed a girl out of love,
Yeah.
is only really brought up and mentioned majorly when him and John are left in the house together.
Yeah. Well,
And it's so tense because I'm sat there and I'm like, John is telling you that he didn't love this girl. He just killed her because she was talking shit and he felt so powerful. Where behind Feck's eyes, he loved the girl he shot.
yeah. I mean, that was one of the most poignant moments in the whole film. Like
Yeah.
that absolute contrast, because you see Feck's response, like you see him digesting what John's saying to him.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's just like, that's not right at all.
Yeah.
Like killing just for the sake of killing is, and having a power trip out of it was the complete opposite to his, supposed killing. Because up until this point, you're just like, did he even actually kill somebody or not?
Yeah. But weirdly enough, for me, the film also kind of made it unnatural of how they got into that situation. There's this body just laying next to the river. Matt has gone off with Clarissa. Matt established early on at the start of the film that he really fancied Clarissa, played by Ione Skye. And so he's gone off with her while Lane is trying to deal with the body, with John. And Tim, we're also following Tim going around. His friend with the nunchucks.
Right. Vicious little fucker.
Yeah, like Tim and Matt hate each other, and Tim hates his little sister as well. And after the destruction of her doll and the
shrine.
the shrine that she'd made with the body, him and Matt actually have a fight.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, Keanu Reeves on top of this 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and just wailing on him, punching him, turns Tim against Matt. Tim knew that Matt had called the police
Yeah.
on John as well.
Which is what makes Matt the most sympathetic and most likable character in the film.
Yeah.
Because he honestly cared that somebody had died, and he was upset that nobody else had reported it.
Yeah.
And he has that conversation with Clarissa, and she's just like, oh, who do you think narked? Who was it? She was like, I thought about doing it, but I appreciate that somebody did it. And he
Yeah.
eventually goes, well, yeah, it was me. I
was
did
me.
it. Yeah. And then they have sex in the park.
Yeah.
And and it's the whole sex and death parallel
Yes.
here as well, because whilst they're having sex, it's actually now showing the flashback to John doing the killing, the strangling her.
Yeah.
And
There's no reaction from her either.
well, I mean, it's
when
more like a
Jamie's-
memory, his memory
Yeah, I
of
know,
it,
but
because
that's
she also
what-
doesn't say anything. Like,
Yeah.
we don't actually hear her talk shit about John's mother. So it's like, it may not have even been anything that set him off. It may have just been that John is a psycho.
Yeah.
And just wanted to kill her,
Yeah.
just because he wanted to see how it felt.
Yeah.
And then
mean,
that
yeah.
complete dissociation that he has with it, where there's no remorse, no guilt.
Yeah.
He's just matter of fact, just like, okay, yeah, now what? Like, life goes on. It is alienating, and it is strange, and it's disturbing as an audience member to watch that behavior, but it is very fascinating as well.
Yeah.
Especially when you finally pair John and Feck together in the same room and they're discussing that. It's really interesting and very well acted.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is really well acted, but also weirdly enough, just feels for me very unnatural. Every sequence.
Yeah.
All the way leading up to the end. I mean, Tim has realised that Matt has called the police on John and that the police are going to find out about the body. But Lane has already rolled the body into the river, and so when Matt and the police get up there, the body's gone. They do find it a couple of minutes later, and then they start to question Matt, and Matt's just like, look, why the hell would I bring this to your attention? It was John. And weirdly enough, the cops didn't feel natural enough to go, all right, well, we're going to rush out and we're going to find this guy right away. Like they do in some movies. This one detective, he's just so insistent to question Matt. And how did you feel seeing the body? How did you feel?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that is the bizarre thing, isn't it? Is that you should know how you feel about seeing it, but They are just, I mean, they're all stoned, they're all drunk, you know, they're all early teens as well.
Yeah.
They're not equipped to deal with that situation, but it's the fact
Yeah.
that they have no feelings, which is the strange thing. Is when you cut to the school teacher,
Yeah.
who goes on a tirade, a rant to all the kids. He's just like, none of you care, none of you are feeling anything. But that's also replicated as well in the newspaper, where when they do report on her death, it's not even the headline.
No.
You know, it's like on the reverse side of the paper. It's just a small section. And it's
Teen
like not even
girl
the
found dead.
newspaper cares.
Yeah.
It's like maybe the town doesn't really care.
Well, watching the stages of emotions throughout the movie is amazing to watch. I mean, like we said, we've just Clarissa, when Clarissa really fancies her teacher, and then when he goes off at her in the classroom, she does generally look quite shocked. You know, like she's lost respect for him. Matt, when he's in the police station, when he goes off at the detective, I'm looking at Keanu Reeves like, you're gonna make some good films in the future. You know, there's a startling career for you soon.
Well, this was his breakout performance, and you can see why he's been typecast as the stoner ever since this film.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis Hopper with Feck, you know, he at first didn't care, but then he gets really emotional when he has to kill John next to the river. I find it so weird that they call him John, but his name's actually Samson. And Matt has to explain it in the police station, like the reason why we call him John is because of his last name.
I told you about John.
John?
Samson. We call him John because of his last name, Toilet. And you know, Toilet, Toilet, John.
And I'm like, that just seemed like such a weird, why would you bring that up piece of dialogue? But then I'm like, I need it because he's called Samson and I'm calling him fucking John.
John, right.
You know? And Feck returns back to his house in the morning, and Tim and his nunchuck friend, you don't know what this boy's called. Like I did try to research it,
Yeah.
and I found nothing, so I just called him Nunchuck Boy. They have broken into Feck's house and they found his stash of weed, and I'm guessing they've just got absolutely stoned all night. Feck is returned home the next morning and they knock him out.
Yeah, and take the gun because Tim is now going to go and kill his brother Matt.
Yeah.
Hit him again!
And they head, all of the friends have converged to the river with Lane. And all the friends head to the river's edge, obviously to discuss what's going on. And that's where Lane comes across the body of John. And it was so weird.
He actually has an emotional response.
Yeah, he does. When he saw Jamie's body, he was poking it with a stick, and he you know, he didn't seem emotional at all. And then throughout the movie, like I said, watching these actors develop, he was getting more and more upset and angry that his love for John, you know, wasn't being reciprocated by everybody else, and how he was trying to keep this group of friends together forever. And yet John actually says at one point, like, oh, fuck him, I don't care for him.
Yeah.
You know, and so Lane is now absolutely heartbroken that he tried to protect his friend, and ultimately it's led to him just getting his head blown away.
Right.
John! John!
And Tim turns up with the gun and attempts to kill Matt. And Matt and Tim have this breakdown. But it's such a simple...
I was horrified. I so expected Tim just to blast his brother
Oh,
away.
I did as well. But the whole, we're brothers. And he doesn't. And I was like, well, that's a bit weak.
Well, for me, I was just like, you know, at least there is now some hope. Like,
Yeah.
right at the end of the film, I was like, there's a glimmer of hope. Because if he had blown his brother away, this would have probably been one of the most depressing films I'd
Yeah.
ever seen.
God damn it, Tim! I'm your brother.
It doesn't massively end on a happy note. I mean,
Well,
you
it
know,
ends with the funeral.
he just kind of, well, he pushes his brother into the police car, and they're driving away together. and it ends at the funeral zooming in on the corpse.
Yeah. Well, at least that's normal.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, isn't it? Like everything, once you look at the film in like a whole, you realize that it's actually every unnatural choice or direction that the film headed was heading to the most natural ending that they were all going to go to.
Yeah. I do
You
just
know?
want to give huge props to the actress who played, is it Jamie, the girl that
Yeah.
died? Because that wasn't a dummy, it wasn't a stand-in.
No.
So she played a corpse particularly well. I mean, watching it now on a Blu-ray, on a big screen, I'm just looking at her eyes and I'm just like, I can tell there's life between those eyes. There's still a sparkle, even though they've got the contacts on. And I was just like, her foot's moving slightly. I'm just like, I can tell
I
it
was staring intently. Like,
Yeah.
when you see the body turn up at the beginning, you're like, oh, wow, it's not a prosthetic. And this is the weirdest thing, because I kept expecting the police to turn up, to pick up the body, to cover it, to take it away, and nothing said. But the body just keeps coming back throughout 30, 40 minutes of the film
Yeah.
until Lane pushes it into the river.
I mean, that was her as well, being rolled in.
Yeah. And then you're looking at it, you're like, that's not a prosthetic, that's actually an actress. And then when she was lying on the ground, I'm looking at her, and the weirdest thing was, I'm like you said, there's a bit of life just behind those contact lenses.
Yeah.
But they're dead eyes. I'm like, that is the best. If she came to life right now, that would be the best zombie makeup ever, because she just looks so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was impressive.
The thing that freaked me out the most, though, was Feck shoots John next to the side of the river, and his body's lying there. So that when the police come and pick him up, and they take him away, they don't cover him up.
No.
I'm like, that's not natural. I'm pretty sure, like every cop, but I didn't know if that was also the film's way of just kind of enforcing his dead body.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
are we supposed to even care that he's dead? Here, look, here's his corpse. You don't have to stare at it.
Right.
You know, it's weird.
So, Ian, what's your favourite scenes from River's Edge?
I wrote all of my favorite scenes down, but with question marks next to them, because I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to be good or if I just weirdly enjoyed it because of the context.
What do you mean you don't know?
Yeah. My first favorite scene is when the boys first go to the body with John. Crispin Glover playing Lane was just... He was George McFly from the 1950s, but wearing all leather. So he's just like jumping around, dude, and like the body, and he is just there's such disbelief that he wouldn't, like, I would totally freak out.
Yeah.
And he's poking it with a stick, like, yeah, man. Okay. And then there's this next sequence where him, Matt, and John are all sat in the car. His little dune buggy was pretty
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
like that. And they're driving down. And Lane just pretty much explains the plot of the movie. How they're all friends and they're just going to hide this body now. And I'm like, that's weird.
It's like some fucking movie, Friends, second grade, fucking like this. And then one of us gets himself in potentially big trouble. And now we've got to deal with it. We've got to test our loyalty against all odds. It's kind of exciting. I feel like Chuck Norris,
My favourite scene too was the second time they all go to the body. And the girls are there. And then the dark... There's this weird dark realization from everybody that John has killed Jamie. It just settles in on that shot where they're all kind of just stood around and the body's just lying there on the floor. But nobody's attacking John. Nobody's mugging him. Nobody's holding him to the ground to tie him up and take him. There's no mobile phones, which obviously, naturally, nobody's trying to call the police or running away or being sick or just... They're just looking at John like he's killed Jamie. What I do for my fucking friends... I think it's the sequence after he's just rung John at home and John's feeding his auntie.
Yeah.
And they're going to read a book.
It's that one moment in the film where you see or feel some sympathy for
Yeah.
John.
Yeah.
Like as if you'd forgotten at that point that he had killed someone.
Yeah.
Watching him look after his auntie.
But it was so weirdly natural as well, because this is how kind of serial killers do it. They're living at home and feeding their auntie or mother, you know, and then they go off and kill girls next to rivers. But Lane rings John and says, we need to get rid of the body. And John's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Like, he wants to get caught. And he hangs the phone up. And Lane's like, oh, what do I do for my fucking friends? Like, getting rid of this dead body, you know, is just going to make him the hero, the leader. Lane has to get rid of this body to keep this friendship group together.
What I do for my fucking friends.
John and Feck in Feck's house talking about killing girls.
It's disturbing, but it was fascinating because both actors really gave it their all in that moment.
Yeah. It was like there was that sequence where Dennis Hopper's sat on the bed and the camera's looking at him and he opens this box of weed and he's talking about this weed and he's talking to the camera like he's talking to John, and then he gets up and the camera moves around and you realize John has gone and you're like, oh shit. And then later, like 5-10 minutes later, you cut back to Feck at the house and John comes back with this cat.
Yeah.
And they're now talking about this cat. And I'm like, he's going to kill that cat.
Right.
He wants to kill that cat. But then I just kept feeling so tense. Like him and Feck were going to kill each other there and then.
Yeah.
You know, then they're talking about this girl. And that's when you start to realize that Feck doesn't fully like John being in the house. You know. And
I think he's come to the conclusion that he's a monster.
Yeah.
He's not a human monster like himself, if he has in fact killed someone for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you killed the girl, right? Are you a psycho?
Yeah, probably. What other excuse do I have?
Matt sitting in the back of the car humming Mission Impossible was favourite scene 5. Like I said, it was just so weird, the whole movie. And then Lane and Clarissa are arguing in the front of the car about what they're going to do with John. They can't find him. He's gone missing with Feck. You know, what they're going to do with the body. John's a killer. And Clarissa mentions about it not being Mission Impossible. And the camera focuses on Matt. You know, Keanu Reeves, and Keanu Reeves just starts humming the Mission Impossible tune.
Yeah.
And he's humming it over the dialogue, so you're trying to listen, and part of me is like, oh, I'm just going to tell him to shut up in a minute. And Lane does turn around and tells him to shut up, and they then carry on talking about the... Yeah, it was really well done. Like I said, my favourite scenes were just, is that really going on?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I don't even see why you need us here.
Okay, it's not like I need you here, like physically need you here. I mean, I can drive, I can collect money, but we're a gang and I need you here, you know? Would you shut up? Would you shut up back there?
My last two favourite scenes, the first one was the teacher having his outburst in the classroom with Clarissa. Or maybe it was Clarissa's acting reaction to him. But it's just the fact that the teacher was just, you know, he showed so much emotion about Jamie's death. And you know that Clarissa has actually walked into the middle of a conversation because we'd seen the two kids, the two male actors in the classroom before in another scene. And they were always contradicting each other, arguing. So now Clarissa's walked in the middle of this argument between, you know, about the death of her friend who she's already been dealing with. Anyway, it was just her facial reaction to now realizing that her teacher, she doesn't love him anymore. Mm-hmm. She might actually properly love Matt. And my last favorite sequence is any of the sequences with the nunchuck kid in. he was just really good as the backup to Homer. Like I really liked, I say Homer, Tim's character. Homer, he's a great actor, but this nunchuck kid kind of made Tim looked like the leader.
Yes.
You know, because he had his backup sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, shut up, Kevin. It was a great line. I was just like, bravo, teacher, bravo. Yeah, it was a great moment. It was a great scene just to see somebody emoting and getting worked up and getting angry and frustrated with these kids, because that's how I'd felt about them up until that point. I was just like, what is wrong with you all? Yeah. You know, and it's kind of emblematic of the time of 80s America, that kind of resentment for authority and kind of the selfish behavior of teens at that age anyway. Yeah. And so I think the film portrayed it incredibly well.
Or selfish teens at any point, really. I mean,
Yes.
like, I'm watching it, this is 1986, but I'm looking at the teens nowadays, and I'm like, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
them acting like it, but they'd have more Instagram, Snapchat, mobile
Right.
phone attachments.
I loved watching Dennis Hopper dancing with his blow-up doll.
Yeah, he loved that blow up doll, didn't he?
Oh, he did. He
Man,
did.
it took me back. Like, I looked at him and I'm thinking, wow, you were king of Fiddler's Green.
Yeah.
You know? And here you are just dancing around of somebody's front room. Like, seeing his bike from Easy Rider made me want to go and watch Easy Rider.
Right, yeah.
I also, his character also kind of made me want to go and watch Blue Velvet. I mean, I
Right.
might be getting it wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet.
Yes, yeah.
With the gas mask.
Yeah.
But this whole film also had a very Blue Velvet feel about it.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
very David Lynch, unnatural, and Dennis Hopper just,
Nailed it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think my favourite shot in the film is probably Tim riding across the bridge. I just thought the cinematography was really good, just like the misty bank in the
Yeah.
background,
Yeah.
and just him riding into it. I thought that was very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Worst scenes in the film for me is probably all of the Crispin Glover scenes.
Oh, yeah, he was terrible.
I mean, I looked at a couple of.
Was he? Were we all wrong? Like, is this how Crispin Glover... I need to watch more Crispin Glover movies.
Right, I mean, he is a very strange. You know, people have called him a mad genius, and I struggled to like. I mean, I didn't like his character, but I also struggled with his performance because it reminded me so much that I was watching a performance. But
Yeah.
then a part of me goes, no, that's Crispin Glover though. He is strange.
Yeah.
But for me, it just kept distracting me from the film because I was laughing at his performance when I shouldn't be. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So it was just way too distracting for me.
That's it. Like I said, with his one line of like, what the fuck I do for my friends, he made me laugh because I'm like, oh, he's not taking this seriously. But then I wasn't too sure if his character was, or Crispin Glover was, or this is how the director intended it to. Yeah.
Well, Ian, do you recommend River's Edge?
I do, but like, I don't think it's for everybody. Like, I was very surprised that I enjoyed it, but then at the same time, I don't think I'd ever watch it again. Like, it's firmly blazed into my memory. You know, so much so. A bit of trivia for you: the stepdad was one of the ambulance drivers from Halloween 2.
Just so you know that Robeck, the guy who played John,
Yeah.
was also in the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes.
Yes, he had been in a lot of Rob Zombie movies. There you go, bit of trivia at the end. It's a, like Gary would probably say, it's a hidden gem.
Yes.
But then at the same time, I think it's one of those movies as well that once you've seen it, you might just go, yeah, I've seen it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to the film was, I hate it. Like, you made me feel horrible and unclean inside. Like,
Yeah.
And it just it scares you for, you know, the fate of humanity. If all people behaved the same way that these kids behave in this film, you would be seriously concerned. But then again, that's kids. And that's teenagers, and that's...
But then is that the thing? Is that why we don't like it? Because it is actually partly a reflection on how
Yes.
people would react.
Yeah.
So the film is so honest as well.
Yes, yeah.
It's
raw, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And so this is a fairly depressing anti-John Hughes teen movie about disaffected youths dealing with broken homes and murderous intent. It is, though, a very dark film, and it's grim and it's uncomfortable viewing at times. Like I said, I had issues with Crispin Glover's acting throughout the film. He was so strange and so over the top and just unbalanced to the scenes and the tone of the film, making it humorous. And there are some darkly comedic moments in the film that do lighten the tone.
Yeah.
The rest of the cast were great. Keanu delivered a heartfelt performance and was the most likable, while Daniel Robeck gave a memorable performance as this remorseless psychopath. There are some great moments of cinematography by Frederick Elms. It's beautifully shot, and it's just as haunting as the apathy portrayed by the characters within. I think this film is fantastic. I have issues with some of the performances, and I don't entirely recommend it because it's a hard watch. It evokes an emotional response that is uncomfortable whilst fascinating. The tagline for the film was the most controversial film you will see this year. If you watch this now, I think that tagline still rings true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
That's a reprehensible attitude.
Just shut up, Kevin!